So, Resident Evil Apocalypse. Yeah, it sucked. I mean, all right, so, like, it wasn't as bad as the last one. It wasn't as bad as Resident Evil Retribution. It had slightly more of a plot, or at least it seemed as though it was building up to something, so just the incessant action seemed kind of cool. And I mean, I checked my brain at the door. I'm like, okay, this is a Resident Evil movie. And the thing of it is, it does start off awesome. Okay, there's some really cool stuff. There's like this big bat flying creature thing that was really cool. There was actually like a lot of jump scares in the beginning, so I was sort of like, okay, all right, so they're kind of taking it back to like its horrific roots, and like the whole idea of going back to Raccoon City, going back to the Hive, bringing it back to the beginning, in theory would have been really good. And the dude, I'm sorry, I forgot the actor's name from Game of Thrones who plays Ser Jorah. He was like hands down the best part of this movie. He was just great in every way. You know, I mean, they had these really cool like sort of like post-apocalyptic. It wasn't even like post-apocalyptic. It was like it was designed by a company like zombie killing fucking vehicles, and they had this cool method of like, you know, dangling people outside with chains on their hands, and they had to like run after the vehicle, and there's just like this like horde of zombies, kind of a carrot on a stick thing, and these guys would like lure the Jeffrey, get the fuck. This is my cat, Jeffrey. Everybody, Jeffrey, get away. Just go. Yeah, but these like vehicles, they weren't like, you know, like Mad Max, like kind of like makeshift, like post-apocalyptic. No, these were like company designed by Umbrella, you know, to like be basically zombie-proof vehicles. And I mean, that was really cool. There were cool elements to the movie. And it sort of led to what would have been a really cool backstory, but here's the fucking problem. And this was a problem I had, like, literally, I'm talking, like, first frame of the movie, a problem that, like, I had with it, okay, is something happens a certain way in the second Resident Evil movie, Resident Evil Apocalypse, okay? And, like, it establishes the identity of a certain character, what that character's origins, so to speak, you know? And, like, it was, like, kind of a father-daughter dynamic that was replaced in this one right in the beginning by another father-daughter dynamic that was completely irrelevant to the original. And the shame of it is, conceptually, it was actually really cool because it's also about, like, Alice's origins. So, like, you know, when you find out when the ball drops and you're like, oh shit, this is what's been going on the whole time, it's like, it would have been really fucking cool, but it was completely fucking contradictory to something else that happened in one of the other movies. They Highlander 2'd that shit. And when I say they Highlander 2'd that shit, I mean, like, even in its own right, the movie didn't make sense. Even if you're like, these previous films, like, you know, they just didn't happen. They didn't, no, it still doesn't make sense. Because the thing from the other movie that contradicts this movie, they show an image from it on a screen. So it's sort of like, what the fuck are fans supposed to take from that? Okay? Now again, you know, this movie had some really good action. It did have some serious, like, entertainment value. And it wasn't, well, I mean, it was kind of, frankly, like the last one. You know, Alice has to go from point A to point B. You know, the thing that made this movie different was the reveal, you know, which would have really made the movie. But unfortunately, it blatantly contradicts what we already know. You know, my friends and I were having a conversation, and it's like, what we don't understand is why they didn't just stick to the video games, okay? Like, don't get me wrong. I actually really like the first, well, I like the first and the third Resident Evil movie. The second one's okay. The fourth one is, like, very okay. Like, not even a good movie, just like a guilty pleasure kind of a movie. Fifth one absolutely sucked a donkey dick, and this one was just behind the fifth one on sucking donkey dick. And it's just sort of like, you know, most of the video games were awesome. I would say that the first 4 video games were really awesome, you know, and I haven't not played Resident Evil 7 yet, but I hear that they've gotten back on track. So it's like, you have all of this shit, like, planned out for you already, you know? Like, all of the fucking characters, you know? You want to start with the original Resident Evil. They're in the Spencer Estate Mansion, and, like, they have So much shit for you to work with. And if you're like, well, we couldn't possibly make it like that because we don't have the budget. All right, so cut out like the fucking giant snake and just stick to like zombies and crows and like, you know, you could have like a couple more like monsters towards the ending and the fucking tyrant. Like, it's all there. The game fucking builds up to the fucking tyrant, and when you finally see that motherfucker, you're like, oh my god, this is fucking scary. Just do that, man. Like, why do you have to go up? Paul W.S. Anderson, you know, he did the Mortal Kombat movie, the original Mortal Kombat movie, and I thank him for that. I really do. Because that was, like, at least to date, that is the definitive, like, video game movie, okay? Because they didn't fuck with it in any way. And the Resident Evil movies, all at least, like, produced or co-written by Paul W.S. Anderson, they, you know, I mean, they veered so far off the fucking rails. Like, and he obviously didn't have a plan as to how to end them. And it's like, after all this time, I feel that was kind of like, all right, well, I'm fucking glad I invested, you know, like this 12 hours of my life to watch all the Resident Evil movies. But no, I mean, you know, it has its entertainment value. You know, it's not a good movie. I would wait for, like, you know, a Tuesday matinee kind of a deal. But, you know, the thing that blows my mind is, like, someday, okay, movie studios are going to catch on. It's just like with comic books, okay? Back in, like, the 70s to arguably the 90s, all right, video game movies were never really, really taken seriously, like, as serious stories. Then along comes X-Men in 2000, and it's an actual, like, movie with actual characters that you care about, that you can follow, and you're like, wow, maybe all the movie studios were suddenly like, oh, light bulb, maybe we can actually make superhero movies like actual good stories. It's like, yes, no shit. If you read the comics, if you had respect for the fucking comics, and you didn't just poo-poo it as being this, like, you know, dumbass, like, teenage thing to do, it's like, no, actually read the stories, you know? Like, it's good, it's great. Like, use that, you know? Follow that. And they did, and superhero movies have, like, fucking exploded. I think that video game movies have yet to come, okay? I think that one of these days, all right, somebody's going to get the rights to a fucking awesome video game, and they are going to do a fucking immaculate adaptation of it that is just so cool and well put together, and it's going to be like the same thing. All of a fucking sudden, the movie studios are going to be like, oh, shit, maybe if we actually use the source material. You think? You fucking think? Use the fucking source material, for Christ's sake. It's less work for you. It's fucking better for the fans. It's better for everybody. It makes everybody's life better, okay? Like, producers, you just have money, okay? You don't have good ideas. Like, the only reason people listen to you is because you're putting forth the money. You are dropping the fucking cash, okay? If it were not for that, nobody would give a fuck what you had to say. Like, if you're gonna fucking invest in something, trust the fucking artist, okay? And honestly, do your fucking research. Trust the artist and make sure it's a fucking artist that respects the source material. Make sure it's a fucking screenwriter that respects the fucking source material, okay? If you do this, you'll be so much more fucking successful than you have been in the past, like, fucking 2 decades. I fucking promise you. Christ.